As promised, I'm converting our slides into a video lesson. Postcolonial theory. And to get a grasp of postcolonial theory, you will find that you need to understand some amount of history and some amount of geography. The term itself, post-colonial, engages with colony, colonial, colonizer. And so, yes, it takes you back to when European countries colonized other countries. And the impetus was discovery, the discovery of new lands. And so here, this map shows you departure in London. Up there, that's England and Ireland. I hope you could see it here. And they sailed, these discoverers, and these are their destinations. And so, the discovery of the Americas, discovery of the New World, that's what it's referred to as. So here you have North America, the Caribbean and Caribbean islands, South America, Africa, and you have that peninsula there going up, and that's Europe, the continent of Europe, England up there. And so the whole nature of the term post-colonial embodies this relationship between the colonizer, who discovered lands and colonized, formed colonies, claimed them as colonies of their own. Here we have a map that probably tries to pinpoint some of the colonizers. So some countries were colonized by England, some by France, some by Spain, some by Portugal. Some of them, you had the Dutch colonizers. Of course, the Dutch were here in Guyana for the sugar plantations, and you hear about all the structures that they placed when they came. And the Dutch place names, you've got Norway, you've got Denmark. They were all colonizers. And here is the carving up of Africa. British got the countries that are red, the French got the ones in green, the German, the Portuguese, and you could imagine sitting down, watching at a map and carving up and claiming countries within a whole continent for their own. And so in claiming it, your language is imposed, your culture is imposed, your way of life is imposed. Sorry? This one shows you the colonization of India. And before British rule, there were Indian princely states, there was a culture, and there were structures. But the British moved in and colonized. So now I'm probably at the point where I'm going to introduce you to postcolonial criticism. And the question, what postcolonial critics do? And here we say it refers to the theories, the texts, the political strategies, the modes of activism that engage in questioning. And it aims to challenge, so it aims to question and challenge structural inequalities. And maybe the overarching aim is to bring about social justice. One form of social justice, reparations. And so it's a topical issue where Caribbean countries are engaged in discussing with England ways in which you could pay us for the destruction caused or for the gutting of our country and taking everything out of it when we were a colony. So what do the critics do? They locate the modes of representation that show inferiority. They unpack literary devices and the themes and the representations that enforce this imperialist ideology. And so maybe you're looking at novels that are written by people from the colonized countries where they give you their images of us. And there are two that come to mind: Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad and A Passage to India by E.M. Forrester. So critics unpack the literary figures, the themes, and all that enforces this imperialist ideology. The critic is going to criticize colonial and Western dominance, the power relations. They also become engaged in uncovering a subtext. So when you read, there is much more to it. What is the figurative meaning? What is the underlying meaning that you get? So those meanings are unpacked. The critic probe beneath the obvious to reveal author assumptions. And so as a student of postcolonial literature, you become critical, you become a critic. So you're going to read the text and you're going to write your criticism of it. How the images, the figures, the themes, and the presentations are delivered to you. And here is another slide that tells you about what the texts reveal. They reveal an engagement with the colonial super country, that's your mother country. These texts address issues resulting from the earlier colonial experience. They probably address the waves of independence and the movements. The writers, they foreground questions of cultural difference and diversity. They reject universalizing claims. Universalizing means that if there is nothing of us at all in your literature, then how is it? Your literature is universal for English literature. And so they reject that claim. So the English literature does not speak about us, and therefore there is need for Caribbean literature, literature from Africa, literature from India. The texts are going to examine how literature is silent on matters of colonization and imperialism. You're going to look at how writers engage with role reversal, contrasting identities, concept of otherness, concept of alterity. So our course is going to take us down all of these avenues. And this slide introduces you to some of the leading post-colonial critics. We have Edward Said. He wrote something called Orientalism. There's Gayatri Spivak. She wrote an essay, Can the Subaltern Speak? Gayatri Spivak is very, very important when you're talking about the concept of othering and concept of alterity. And then the leading critics, what do they engage with? Race, class, gender, power. And maybe these four are the four pinnacles or pillars on which postcolonial criticism rests. There is another critic here, postcolonial critic, Chinua Achebe. So he wrote a novel, Things Fall Apart. You're going to study it. But he also wrote critical essays. And then there's Jamaica Kincaid. She's from Antigua, and she wrote criticism that's considered post-colonial criticism. And then there's Derek Walcott. We've read What the Twilight Says. We did some work with that. And we find Walcott rejecting the imperialist control of the narrative, the imperialist control of the story. Who tells the story? And so whose version is told? And what happens as a result of the version that is told? And so there is also an engagement with rejecting new colonialism. New colonialism speaks of when that period when the colonizer moved out and that vacuum that was left there. There were structures in place, for example, Ministry of Education, Ministry of this and all of that. And all we needed to do, or all we did, was to find figureheads and put there. And some may argue that in their own right, what they've created is another power structure where they suppress others. There are examples. We could get our examples from Africa. We could get our examples from India. I gave two examples. Let me see if I could find them. I found it. I located the information. It's the president of Malawi who defended his right to take his immediate family to represent the country in England instead of taking the ministers who were the correct persons that he should take. And then there's the example I was giving you of the South African president, the past president, is Jacob Zuma. And he has built for himself a home that is considered to be a palace. It's 23 million. And the grounds of the palace, it took 40 million pounds to renovate. And so you begin to wonder, after the colonizer has done such terrible things to the colonized, with the movement now, or the displacement and the eviction of the white rulers, what you find happening is that it's a form of new colonialism that's being practiced. So that's another term for you to hold on to. And so there you have those critics. Here I have the three texts that I'm probably using. This one have all the essays, and these are the essays here. I'm moving quickly because time is limited. These are some of the issues that are addressed by Homi Bhabha, and I think that will be the last one for you now. Homi Bhabha examines differences over sameness, and it's here on the slide, so I don't need to do it for you. Thank you.